Imagine flipping your life upside down in just 1 week. Not with grand promises or impossible goals, but with 5 simple habits that actually stick. I'm not talking about generic tips you've heard a million times. These are raw, real changes I stumbled into. Waking up before the sun, moving my body daily, spilling my soul onto paper, savoring every bite, and breaking free from my screen's grip. I was skeptical too. Mornings were my enemy. Exercise was a chore, and my phone was my shadow. But in 7 days, I went from stuck to unstoppable. Stick with me. I'm pulling back the curtain on how it happened, with stories that'll hit close to home and steps you can steal today. You won't want to miss what's coming. Habit 1. Waking up early. The quiet revolution that transformed my days. Let's dive into the first habit that flipped my life upside down in the best way possible: waking up early. If you told me a year ago that I'd be willingly rolling out of bed at 5 a.m., I'd have laughed in your face. Mornings and I were never friends. My bed was my sanctuary, the snooze button my loyal companion, and the chaos of a rushed start to the day was just my norm. I'd stumble out the door, coffee spilling, already feeling behind. But one day, I decided to take a leap of faith and try something radical, waking up before the world stirred. Spoiler alert, it was a total game changer. The decision didn't come easy. I wasn't a morning person by any stretch of the imagination. The mere thought of peeling myself from the warmth of my blankets while it was still dark outside felt like a personal betrayal. But I'd heard enough about the magic of early mornings, how they could carve out time for yourself in a way the rest of the day never seemed to allow. So, I set my alarm for 5 a.m., half expecting to give up by day 2. The first morning was brutal. My body protested, my mind grumbled, and I shuffled around like a zombie, questioning my life choices. Day 2 wasn't much better, but by day 3, something clicked. I started to notice the stillness, the way the world seemed to hold its breath before the sun peaked over the horizon. It was like stepping into a secret pocket of time that I'd never known existed. What made this habit stick wasn't just the act of waking up early. It was what I did with those precious extra hours. Instead of diving straight into the chaos of emails or scrolling through my phone, I used the time to ease into the day on my terms. I'd start with some light stretching or a short jog around the block. Nothing intense, just enough to shake off the grogginess and get my blood flowing. Then, I'd sit quietly with a cup of coffee, letting my thoughts settle as I sipped slowly. Sometimes, I'd meditate for a few minutes, focusing on my breath and setting a simple intention for the day ahead. Be present, or stay calm under pressure. These small rituals turned my mornings from a frantic race into a gentle, intentional launch pad. The benefits started piling up faster than I expected. For one, I stopped feeling rushed. Mornings used to be a blur, grabbing whatever breakfast I could find, throwing on clothes, and bolting out the door. Now, I had time to breathe. I could sit down with a proper meal. Think eggs sizzling in the pan or a bowl of oatmeal topped with fresh fruit, and actually enjoy it. That unhurried pace set a tone of calm that rippled through the rest of my day. I felt more organized, less frazzled, and, dare I say it, in control. It was as if those early hours gave me a head start, a buffer against whatever curveballs life threw my way. One moment stands out as the turning point when I knew this habit was worth keeping. It was about a week in, and I stepped onto my balcony just as the sun began to rise. The sky shifted from deep indigo to soft pinks and oranges, painting the world in hues I'd usually sleep through. Birds chirped faintly in the distance, and a cool breeze brushed my face. Standing there, coffee in hand, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. It wasn't just about the beauty of the scene. It was the realization that I'd given myself this gift of time, this quiet space to simply be. That morning cemented my love for waking up early. It wasn't about productivity hacks or checking boxes. It was about reclaiming a piece of my day for me. Now, I get it. Waking up early isn't for everyone. If the idea of a 5 a.m. alarm makes you cringe, I won't judge. But here's my challenge to you. Give it a shot, even just for a week. You don't have to leap straight to dawn. Start by setting your alarm 15 minutes earlier than usual, then nudge it back a bit more each day. Experiment with what you do in that time. Maybe it's sipping tea in silence, jotting down a few thoughts, or taking a slow walk as the world wakes up. The point isn't the hour on the clock, it's the shift in how you approach your day. Those early moments can become a sanctuary, a chance to ground yourself before life gets loud. For me, waking up early turned out to be more than a habit. It was a quiet revolution. It taught me that how you start your day shapes everything that follows. It's not about cramming more into your schedule. It's about creating space to live more intentionally. So, if you're ready for a change, set that alarm, trust the process, and see where those early hours take you. You might just find a version of yourself you didn't know was waiting. Habit 2. Daily exercise. Moving my body, transforming my life. Let's talk about the second habit that reshaped my world in just 1 week: daily exercise. If you'd asked me a while back whether I'd commit to moving my body every single day, I'd have rolled my eyes and rattled off a dozen excuses. Too tired. No time. I'll start tomorrow. Sound familiar? I was the queen of procrastination when it came to physical activity. Exercise felt like a chore, something I should do but never wanted to. But one day, I hit a breaking point. I was fed up with feeling sluggish and stuck. So I made a promise to myself. Just 1 week of daily movement. What unfolded was nothing short of incredible. I didn't dive in with grand ambitions. No marathon training or gym memberships here. I kept it simple and doable. 20 minutes a day, mixing it up to keep boredom at bay. Some days it was a jog around the neighborhood, others a yoga session in my living room, and sometimes a quick strength workout with a pair of dusty dumbbells I dug out from under my bed. The goal wasn't to become a fitness guru overnight. It was to prove to myself I could show up consistently. The first couple of days were rough. My legs ached, my lungs burned, and I wondered if I'd bitten off more than I could chew. But I kept going, fueled by a quiet determination to feel better inside and out. By day 4, the shift hit me like a bolt of lightning. I woke up one morning not just less tired, but energized. My mood was lighter. I wasn't snapping at every little annoyance like I used to. It dawned on me that those 20 minutes weren't just about burning calories or toning up. They were a gift to my mind as much as my body. Exercise became my daily reset button, a chance to shake off stress and flood my system with those feel-good endorphins. It was less about how I looked and more about how I felt. Stronger, clearer, and, dare I say it, happier. One experience sealed the deal for me. It was a crisp morning, and I laced up my sneakers for a jog. The air was cool, the streets quiet, and as my feet hit the pavement, I felt this surge of freedom. It was just me, the open road, and the rhythm of my breath. My mind, usually buzzing with to-do lists and worries, went quiet. For those 20 minutes, I wasn't overthinking or second-guessing. I was just there. That sense of clarity stuck with me all day, like I'd unlocked a secret door to my own peace. It wasn't about speed or distance. It was about showing up for myself in a way I hadn't before. Then there was yoga. I'd always brushed it off. Too slow, not real, exercise. I'm not flexible enough. But curiosity got the better of me, and I gave it a try. The first session was awkward. My downward dog looked more like a confused plank, but by the third, I was hooked. Yoga wasn't just stretching, it was a lesson in presence. I learned to breathe deeply, to feel every muscle, to listen to what my body needed. One evening, as I settled into a child's pose, I felt this wave of calm wash over me. It was transformative, not because I nailed the poses, but because it reminded me to slow down and reconnect. The physical perks crept up too. My posture straightened out from all those hours hunched over a laptop. I could carry groceries up the stairs without huffing. But the real win was mental. Exercise became my sanctuary, a time to tune out the world and tune into myself. It wasn't a punishment or a means to an end. It was self-care in motion. I stopped seeing it as a have to and started craving it. That shift in mindset was the biggest victory of all. If you're like I was, dodging workouts with every excuse in the book, here's my nudge: start small. You don't need fancy gear or a perfect plan. Pick something you enjoy: dancing in your kitchen, a brisk walk, a few push-ups, and commit to just 10 or 20 minutes a day. Build from there. The first step is the hardest, but the rewards sneak up fast. I remember one day, mid-jog, grinning like a fool because I realized I wasn't just surviving my days anymore, I was thriving. Daily exercise didn't turn me into an athlete, and that's not the point. It gave me energy, lifted my spirits, and carved out a space to care for myself. It's not about extremes or perfection. It's about movement that feels good and fits your life. So lace up those shoes, roll out a mat, or just step outside. Give it a week. You might be amazed at how much changes when you start moving. Not just your body, but your entire outlook. Habit 3. Journaling, unpacking my mind, one page at a time. Let's dive into the third habit that turned my life around in just 1 week. Journaling. I'll be honest, when I first considered picking up a pen to write about my day, I scoffed. Journaling? That's for dreamy poets or people with too much time on their hands, right? I was a skeptic. My days were packed, my mind a whirlwind, and the idea of sitting down to scribble my thoughts felt frivolous. But something nudged me to give it a shot. Just 7 days of putting pen to paper. What I discovered was a quiet power I never expected, a habit that became my anchor and my mirror. I started small, no grand setups or fancy tools. I grabbed a plain notebook from a drawer and a pen that didn't scratch, and I set aside 10 minutes each night before bed. That first evening, I stared at the blank page like it was a stranger. What was I supposed to say? I began with the basics. How my day went, a moment that made me smile, something that gnawed at me. It felt clunky, like I was talking to myself in a language I didn't quite know. But as the week unfolded, those awkward lines turned into a stream of thoughts, raw, messy, and real. I wrote about my hopes, my worries, the dreams I'd buried, even the fears I rarely admitted out loud. It was like opening a door to a room I'd kept locked. The magic kicked in when I started seeing patterns. By day 3, I noticed how often I stressed over things I couldn't change: traffic, a curt email, a deadline looming. Writing it down was like holding a flashlight to my mind. I'd jot down what happened, how it made me feel, and what I could do about it. One night, after a particularly chaotic workday, I poured it all out. The frustration, the tight chest, the racing thoughts. As the words spilled onto the page, I felt lighter. It wasn't just venting, it was sorting through the tangle, finding clarity in the mess. I ended that entry with a simple plan for the next day. Take a deep breath before reacting. The next morning, I did just that, and it worked. Journaling wasn't just reflection, it was action. Then there were the small wins. I started tracking moments of progress. A tough conversation I handled well, a task I procrastinated on but finally tackled. Looking back at those entries was like flipping through a scrapbook of growth. One day, I'd written about a presentation I was dreading. I scribbled my nerves, my prep steps, and later, how it went better than expected. Reading that a few days later lit a spark of pride. It wasn't about bragging. It was proof I was moving forward, even in tiny steps. That quiet encouragement kept me going, a reminder that I was stronger than I gave myself credit for. The gratitude part hit me hardest. I added a little ritual. Every night, I'd list 3 things I was thankful for. Some days it was big, a friend's support, a clear sky. Other days, it was small, a warm mug of tea, a stranger's smile. One entry stood out. I'd struggled with heavy grocery bags, and someone stopped to help. Writing about it didn't just make me grateful, it made me want to pass that kindness on. That shift was subtle but seismic. Instead of fixating on what went wrong, I started noticing what went right. My lens on life softened, and the days felt less heavy. Journaling became my safe haven, a place to be brutally honest without judgment. I didn't have to filter or perform, I could just be. One night, I wrote about a nagging insecurity I'd never voiced. Seeing it on paper didn't fix it, but it stripped its power. It was therapy without the couch, a way to untangle the knots we all carry. By the end of the week, I wasn't just writing. I was discovering who I was beneath the noise, my strengths, my quirks, the things I wanted to chase. If you've never journaled, I get the hesitation. It sounds introspective, maybe even daunting. But here's my pitch, try it. You don't need a leather-bound diary or profound revelations. Grab a scrap of paper and start with whatever's on your mind. Your day, a feeling, a random thought. Let it flow, messy and unpolished. Maybe it's a rant about a bad commute or a quiet thanks for a good meal. The beauty isn't in the words, it's in the act. Give it a week, 10 minutes a night. You might find it's like talking to a friend who always listens. For me, journaling wasn't just a habit, it was a lifeline. It gave me clarity, lifted my spirits, and showed me I had more control than I thought. It's not about perfect prose, it's about peeling back the layers. So, pick up that pen. You might be surprised what you uncover, and how much lighter you feel when you do. Habit 4. Mindful eating, savoring every bite, reclaiming my relationship with food. Let's explore the fourth habit that shifted my life in just 1 week: mindful eating. I'll admit, I used to treat meals like a pit stop, something to rush through while scrolling my phone, answering emails, or zoning out to a show. Food was fuel, nothing more. I'd shovel it down on the go, barely registering what I was eating, let alone how much. A sandwich here, a handful of chips there, always distracted, always hurried. It wasn't until I decided to slow down and really pay attention that I realized how disconnected I'd become from something so basic. 1 week of mindful eating changed everything, not just how I ate, but how I felt about food and myself. The idea was simple but foreign: focus fully on the act of eating. No screens, no multitasking, just me and my plate. I started by setting the stage. I cleared off my cluttered dining table, laid out a placemat, and turned off my phone. It felt odd at first, almost too quiet, like I was staging a ceremony for a bowl of soup. But I committed to it. Before each meal, I'd take a few deep breaths, grounding myself in the moment. Then, I'd pick up my fork and take my first bite, deliberately noticing everything: the texture, the taste, the way it felt in my mouth. It was like waking up to food for the first time. The difference hit me fast. Take a basic salad I'd eaten 100 times: crisp lettuce, juicy tomatoes, a drizzle of dressing. Normally, I'd wolf it down without a thought. But this time, I slowed down. I heard the crunch, tasted the tang, felt the freshness. It wasn't just a salad anymore. It was an experience. Foods I'd overlooked suddenly came alive. The creamy richness of avocado, the subtle sweetness of a ripe peach. I'd been racing through meals my whole life, missing the point. Mindful eating turned eating into something to savor, not just survive. One meal stood out as a turning point. It was a simple bowl of oatmeal. Nothing fancy, just oats, a swirl of honey, a sprinkle of nuts. Usually, I'd scarf it down while checking my inbox. This time, I sat with it. I stirred the honey in slowly, watching it melt into the warmth. I took a small spoonful and let it linger. The smooth texture, the gentle sweetness, the crunch of a walnut. It wasn't just breakfast, it was a quiet moment of gratitude. I finished that bowl feeling full, not stuffed, but satisfied. That's when I realized eating slowly gave my body time to signal when it had had enough. No more overeating out of habit. That awareness spilled over into bigger changes. I started noticing how food affected me. Heavy, greasy takeout left me sluggish, like I was dragging through mud. Fresh, whole foods, veggies, fruits, lean proteins, lifted me up, light and energized. It wasn't about dieting or rules, it was about listening. One afternoon, I caught myself reaching for a snack out of boredom, not hunger. I paused, pen in hand instead of chips, and wrote about it. That pause led me to a cup of tea instead, a small win that felt huge. Mindful eating wasn't just about the plate, it was untangling why I ate in the first place. The emotional side surprised me most. I'd always turned to food for comfort. Stress meant cookies, a long day meant ice cream. Writing it down helped me see it. I wasn't hungry, I was restless. One evening, craving something sweet after a tough day, I stopped. Was it hunger or a reward I wanted? I wasn't starving, just tired. I brewed chamomile tea instead, sipped it slowly, and felt the tension ease. It wasn't deprivation, it was choice. That shift rebuilt my relationship with food, from mindless crutch to intentional nourishment. By the end of the week, I felt different, calmer, more in tune. My digestion improved, no more bloated afternoons. But the real gift was presence. Meals became a break, a chance to step away from the grind and just be. One sunny lunch, I ate a slice of watermelon outside, juice dripping down my chin, and laughed at the mess. It was joy, pure and simple, something I'd missed in my rush. If this sounds far off, I get it. Life's busy, and eating mindfully can feel like a luxury. But try it, even once a day. Pick a meal, ditch the distractions, breathe, and taste. Notice the flavors, the textures, how it sits with you. Start with a snack if a full meal feels too much. A piece of fruit, a square of chocolate. For me, it was a revelation. Food isn't just sustenance, it's connection. 1 week showed me that slowing down doesn't just feed your body, it feeds your soul. Give it a go. You might find a quiet richness you didn't know was there. Habit 5. Limiting screen time. Stepping away to step into life. Let's unpack the fifth habit that reshaped my world in just 1 week. limiting screen time. I'll be the first to admit, I was glued to my devices. Mornings started with a phone in hand, scrolling through notifications before my eyes fully opened. Afternoons blurred into social media rabbit holes, and nights ended with mindless TV marathons or YouTube spirals until I couldn't keep my eyes open. It was second nature, a digital tether I didn't even question. But I started noticing the toll: restless sleep, foggy focus, a nagging sense I was missing out on something real. So, I set a challenge: cut non-work screen time to 1 hour a day for a week. What I gained was so much more than I expected. The rules were simple but daunting. No endless Instagram scrolling, no late-night Netflix binges, no filling every idle moment with a glowing screen. That first day felt like withdrawal. My hand kept reaching for my phone out of habit, itching to check something, anything. I'd built my life around those little hits of distraction, and without them, I felt unmoored. But I stuck to it, capping my leisure screen time at 60 minutes. Enough for a quick catch-up, not enough to lose myself. The shift was jarring, but by day 2, I noticed something: time. Hours I'd spent swiping or staring were suddenly mine again. With that newfound space, I rediscovered pieces of myself I'd let slip. One evening, instead of collapsing on the couch with a show, I grabbed a book I'd been meaning to read for months. The feel of the pages, the quiet rustle as I turned them, it was soothing in a way no video could match. Another day, I dusted off a sketch pad and doodled for an hour, losing myself in the scratch of pencil on paper. I even tried cooking a new recipe, chopping veggies, stirring sauce, tasting as I went. These weren't grand hobbies. They were small joys I'd traded for pixels. Without screens sucking me in, I had room to breathe, to create, to just be. One moment crystallized it for me. After dinner, instead of zoning out to TV, I laced up my shoes and walked to the park. The air was cool, the sky streaked with sunset, and crickets hummed in the distance. I sat on a bench, watching leaves rustle and people pass by: dog walkers, kids on bikes, an old couple hand in hand. It hit me. This was life, unfolding right in front of me, and I'd been missing it. That walk became a ritual, a slice of my day I started craving. It wasn't flashy, but it felt alive, far richer than the flat glow of a screen. Sleep was another revelation. I used to take my phone to bed, scrolling until my eyes burned, then tossing fitfully through shallow dreams. Cutting that habit was tough. My brain craved the late-night buzz. But I swapped it for a wind down, a chapter of a novel, a few minutes of stretching, or just lying there, letting my thoughts drift. The first night, I fell asleep faster. By midweek, I was waking up rested, not groggy. It was like I'd reclaimed my nights, trading digital haze for real rest. That deeper sleep fueled my days, sharpening my energy in ways coffee never could. The mental shift was the biggest surprise. Without the constant flood of news alerts, comparison traps, and viral clips, my mind quieted. I stopped feeling pulled in a dozen directions. Conversations felt fuller. I wasn't half listening, itching to check my phone. One afternoon, I sat at a cafe with just a notebook, scribbling goals and sketching ideas. No pings, no pop-ups, just me and my thoughts. It was peaceful, almost sacred. I felt present, not just passing through my own life. That clarity was worth every tempted swipe I resisted. Of course, it wasn't perfect. I slipped. Once, I caught myself doom scrolling for 20 minutes before snapping out of it. But each time, I'd redirect. A walk, a chat, a cup of tea. It wasn't about banning tech, it was balance. Screens aren't the enemy. Losing myself to them was. By week's end, I didn't just feel freer. I felt fuller, like I'd traded hollow hours for something tangible. If you're drowning in screen time, I get it. It's our world now. But try this. Cap it, even for a day. Start with an hour less. See what fills the gap. Pick up a book, step outside, talk to someone without a buzz in your pocket. For me, limiting screens wasn't deprivation, it was liberation. It gave me back my time, my rest, my focus. 1 week showed me life's richer beyond the glass. Give it a shot. You might find you don't miss the glow as much as you think. Conclusion: small steps, big shifts, a week that changed everything. And there you have it, my journey through 5 habits that turned my life upside down in just 1 week. Waking up early gave me quiet mornings to claim as my own. Daily exercise became my spark, igniting energy I didn't know I had. Journaling opened a window to my soul, revealing truths I'd overlooked. Mindful eating transformed meals into moments of connection, not just consumption. And limiting screen time handed me back hours to live, not just watch. Sharing this with you isn't just about reliving the ride. It's about passing the torch. These aren't lofty theories. They're real, practical steps that worked for me, and I'm convinced they can work for anyone willing to try. What blows me away is how simple it was. No grand overhauls, no impossible goals, just small, steady shifts that stacked up fast. In 7 days, I went from feeling stuck to feeling alive, all because I dared to tweak my routine. It's not about being perfect, it's about showing up. These habits didn't demand superhuman willpower. They asked for curiosity and a little grit. And the payoff? A life that feels less like a treadmill and more like a path I'm choosing. If I can stumble into this kind of change, so can you. So here's my invitation. Pick one. Maybe it's setting an earlier alarm, lacing up your sneakers, scribbling a few thoughts, savoring a meal, or silencing your phone for an hour. Start where you stand, tweak it to fit your world, and see what happens. You don't need a flawless plan, just a first step. Let it be messy, let it evolve. The beauty isn't in nailing it day one. It's in watching those small moves ripple into something bigger. A week might sound short, but it's enough to plant a seed. And trust me, that seed can grow. I'd love to hear your story. Which habit calls to you? What's your next move? Drop it below. Your words fuel this journey as much as mine do. If this sparked something in you, hit that like, subscribe, and ring the bell. We've got more coming, and I'd hate for you to miss it. Share it with someone who might need a nudge. You never know whose day you'll shift. Thanks for being here, for letting me spill my heart. These habits aren't just routines. They're doorways to a better you. Small changes, big results. Let's keep moving forward together. You're capable of more than you think. See you soon.